Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. Okay, this week we're talking about revision and the power of revising your runs. And this is going to seem maybe woo-woo to some, but it really goes hand in hand with visualization, and it goes really hand in hand with how we decide how we want things to work in the future, okay? So one of the reasons, I should say, why visualization is so effective is that when we visualize, I'm going to say with feeling, okay? But we visualize with emotion and feeling. We really get into it. We really get into that whole like mind movie thing, or we really imagine it how we want it to be. Then when we feel it and we get all into it, our brains actually think about it as a memory of something that's already happened, because to your mind, it's already happened. You've already done that thing. It's already gone well, right? So that's why I'm always harping on visualization. That, and it's backed by a whole bunch of science and a whole bunch of Olympic athletes who use it all the time. And I understand that not everybody thinks in pictures, right? I respect that. But I think that we can all imagine, or maybe even write down or something, how we want something to go, and really figure that out and plan that. So some of you are going to plan it out. A lot of you are going to imagine it really happening, or when you walk the course, even if you walk a rally course or an agility course or whatever the thing is, when you kind of imagine doing it, you put yourself in that position and you imagine where your dog is and how it's going to go. And are they looking at you? Are you looking toward them? Like, where are you seeing them relative to where you are? Like all of those things. And the more we can add to our visualizations, like if we can add, like, what's it going to sound like? What's it going to smell like? You know, is someone cooking bacon in the cafe or whatever, you know, where you're trialing, like whatever that is, the more you can add to it, the richer it gets, because what you're doing is you're making a future memory. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's really what's happening. You're making a memory for your brain. Okay. So that said, when we think about our runs that have already happened, okay, so whether we videotape them or not, that really does not matter. But when we think about our runs and we think about maybe a run and we had a mistake, instead of doing the thing that all of us do, which is beating ourselves up, really wishing we had a do-over, you know, talking about it endlessly with our friends and our instructors and just like kind of lamenting and going back through it again and again, what I want you to do instead is I want you to rerun that run in your head or in your imagination or on your journal the way it should have gone, okay? Because here's the problem that happens. When we replay those mistakes over and over again in our head, we cement them in our brains, okay? So even if you don't get into visualization, okay, you have to admit that neuroscience says the more that we do something, the more reflexive it gets, right? Like for tying your shoes. Do you think about tying your shoes? No, you've tied your shoes thousands of times. It's just something reflexive that you do now. It's second nature. You have muscle memory about it. And what happened over time of you tying your shoes is you built neural pathways. Okay. And you built neural pathways in your brain so that you see shoes, you see laces, you put your fingers, you start tying. Okay. It just becomes second nature. Sure, some days you might pay attention to how tight they are, or how loose they are, or that you put like the cool doodad on the front of them or whatever. But for most of the time, you're just you're not thinking about actually how to tie them. You're just tying them. And there's a million things in your lives that you just do that way, just very reflexively. And that is a result of those neural pathways being like, think about it as like ruts on the road, right? Some of them are really freaking deep because you do them every day. Some of them, if you're learning something new, like a new handling skill or something like that in the ring, those neural pathways aren't quite there yet, which is why sometimes you'll do it right. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I meant to do that and it just didn't stick yet. It's just not a habit yet. That's the lack of the neural pathway or a new neural pathway forming. Whenever it's something new like that, we have to form those connections in our brains. Okay? All right. So when we have a run that has a mistake in it and we come out of the ring and proceed to, and I'm going to be dramatic here because nobody's doing this who's listening to me. You all know better, but I'm going to do a dramatic reenactment here. Like you come out of the ring and you just are like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It was just that everything else was perfect except for that one thing. And, your friend comes up and you tell the story again, and another friend comes up, you tell the story again. You go to your class next week and you tell the story again, and you just keep reliving it. You are building a neural pathway for that mistake. Visualization aside, which I'm a big believer, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to get back to that. But just the flat neural pathway thing that is happening in your brain, you are making that a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper rut connection, neural pathway in your brain. And I don't know about you, but I don't love my mistakes that much, okay? Like I don't want to take them with me everywhere I go, okay? So we want to interrupt that. And of course, this month in the membership, we've been talking about, breaking down different ways to get through our mistakes and turn setbacks into success and things like that. So FYI, that is what's going on. So those of you from the membership who are listening, this is going to go hand in hand with what we've been already talking about, which is we want to sort through our mistakes, our errors, to the point that we get the gem out of them. Because there's a gem in every mistake, right? There's a lesson to be learned. There's something that we're never going to do again, or we're going to do differently, or is feedback, or could be a freak thing that just is a 1 in a million thing that happened in the ring and it just messed up your run, what have you. Okay. But we're trying to get the feedback, figure out what we can learn from it, and leave the mistake in the past. Because what we don't want is to keep rehearsing the mistake. So in our brains, we're rehearsing the mistake. If we keep rehearsing it, we build a neural pathway. And from a visualization standpoint, we make that memory so much stronger. So let's say 20 things happened in the ring. You remember this one, you're forgetting the 19. It's killing your confidence because what are you remembering? The one mistake, not the 19 good things. And it's killing your memory of how you last ran. Now, most of us are not being this dramatic about mistakes, but sometimes mistakes or something happens in the ring or setback is so big that, it does get us so involved emotionally and logically that we just really have trouble letting go. And maybe the letting go comes to having to forgive ourselves for making the mistake. That's a real thing. I have coached handlers who are holding mistakes against themselves. One woman for like more than 5 years. 5 years. She still would always go back and talk about this one time, because she was afraid it was going to happen again and because she was emotional about it and all the things. Okay. So that same emotion, though, that you have about your mistakes is the exact emotion I wish you were applying to your vision, your envisioning the runs you want, right? That's the visualization, right? With all of that emotion. If you guys were visualizing with the level of emotion that you had for your mistakes, you would be like the most amazing visualizers on the planet, okay? Because that's the amount of emotion that we want to have. Okay, so what does this mean for revision? Because it's really what we're talking about today. So when it comes to revision then, instead of coming out of the ring and hanging on to your mistake the whole week in between trials, maybe, again, being dramatic, I know. Instead of doing that, what I want you to do is, think about your run or watch the video or whatever it is, figure out the mistake, figure out the why, figure out your next step, what you're going to do differently. And then I want you to run that run again in your head, doing it perfectly. And the first couple times you do it, your brain is going to be like, this is BS. Like, why are we wasting our time? I know I made a mistake here. And the first few times through the visualization, you're going to make the same mistake because that's reality and that's actually what happened. That's in your experience. That's already in your memory. But we're going to change and rewire the memory because we want something better there. We want next time to do it right. We want next time to have a positive association with it. And we want next time to have confidence with it. So the last step that probably none of us are doing, I know I'm very guilty about not going back and revising my runs, is this step of revision. Okay? So we're going to get a little bit deeper into this. I'm going to let you kind of sit with that and I'll be right back. Quick question. Do you ever wish you had more mindset help? Well, the Q membership was created just for that reason. Every month we pick a topic and then we have 4 lessons, which are kind of like these podcasts that we dive deeper into. And so if you are ready for more, you're ready for more mindset work, think about joining the Q membership. Annual members get a free coaching session, but you can also choose the monthly option as well. Go to theqcoach.com to learn more. Let's get back to the episode. All right, we're back. Okay, so letting you mull that over a little bit. So revision is a really powerful tool, and it is a tool that I learned about in life, right? In reading other things and other teachers and all of that kind of stuff. And what we want to be doing with revision in our case is we want to be using it like to create better memories. Now, you're not creating a lie about what happened, right? It's not like the next person that comes up to you, you're going to say like, oh, I was perfect. No, we're not. It's not about that. That is not the goal. The goal is to create a neural pathway, a memory, an event in your mind where you are boosting your confidence and you are reminding yourself what you would do differently next time. Okay? Because you're doing it the right way. Maybe if you're doing agility, maybe you got to that, place in time and you did the perfect blind cross. You were like plenty ahead of time and you even did it early. Okay? Maybe in rally, you did that sign correctly. Okay? And so you're still going to, quote, tell the truth, if you will, when people ask you about it. But what I find is really interesting is once you've done the revision and then someone asks you how it went or how was your run or whatever you want to talk about, what's going to happen in between you revising it and the storytelling again this next time is your emotion is going to be like at a 1, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, like instead of having all this emotion and angst and maybe anger at yourself or frustration or whatever it is, you're going to have already sorted through it. And now your emotion's going to be at a 1 and you're just going to be in fact mode, right? You're just going to be like almost reporting on the run as if you were so detached from it, you didn't care. And you actually are detached from it because in your mind, you know how to do it correctly. You've already sorted through it. Yeah, maybe the first time that this other person is hearing about your run or your weekend or whatever it is. But for you, you're like, I've already sorted through this. I don't have any emotion about it anymore. I already know what I'm going to do differently. Like I've already solved for this. And it is so magical in terms of helping us let go of the emotion, let go of the mistake, move forward and not pack it into that already jammed suitcase and drag it to the next start line. Okay? We've got to stop taking our mistakes with us. We want to take the lessons, but if you're truly taking the lesson, then in your memory will be this run that you ran correctly or without the mistake. right? Or even that the judge made a different call. Maybe you're upset because in agility, they called your contact and you have video proof to show that your dog was in, but they're not willing to change the call, whatever. Again, making things up. But the point is when you remember it, you're like, I'm going to remember it the way I revised it, because that is the way that will serve me going forward. And that is what's going to build my confidence, my dog's confidence, and be more conducive to future visualizations. Okay? So I know a lot of you who listen are also instructors. And whether you are upper level instructors or foundation instructors or anything in between, I would encourage you as an instructor that when your students report back or you're talking about their runs or they're telling you about a mistake, that instead of you going through it or even, I want you to resist the urge to tell them what to do instead, make them tell you how they should have done it, or tell you how they could have done it perfectly, or however you want to phrase that with your students. Make them do the work. Don't do that work for them. Make them do that work. Make them stand there and tell you that they did it in a way, right? That they did it correctly. In other words, make them revise it. Make them tell you what was the lesson. What would you do differently? Tell me how that looks like. Don't just stop with, well, next time I would get there for the blind. No, describe the whole thing. When do you get there for the blind? How do you get there? When do you turn your head? When do you put your arm out? Whatever those cues are. Have them revise it and start building the habit in your students for them to be looking for that revision. Does that make sense? So we can all help all of our students, our friends, everybody, by instead of just saying like, oh my God, that sucks. I'm so sorry. You must be really upset. We're taught to be really empathetic. And a lot of times that is the right course of action, right? It is the right course of action because we don't want to be that person that is giving advice when they're not ready to hear it. Of course, 1000%. You all know how I feel about that. But what we can do is once they've cooled a little bit or once they're sort of ready to talk about it, then you can start to say like, hey, how would you do that differently? Like, what would that look like? Like, I actually did, and you can make it up. I actually did the same thing the other week, and I'm not sure how I would solve it. And get them into solution mode. Because wrapping, for all of us, for us, ourselves, our students, whatever, wrapping ourselves around the axle continuously, honestly, is a choice. Like, hard facts, like, sorry, but it's a choice. Because as I've mentioned before, science shows us that we only have a thought for like a mere seconds. I've seen like 17, 20, 15 seconds. So in that range. Anything after that, we are re-having the thought. We are choosing to have it again. So take the extreme. Those of us in deep grief, okay? We are choosing to have that thought again because we're not done with it. We're not done with the grief, right? I'm going to, when I lost a dog, I'd cry for 3 days, right? It was because I would have the thought and something would remind me, or I'd think of him again and again and again and again. So it's kind of like we think we're really good at multitasking, but we're just really switching those tabs in our brains really fast. It's the same kind of thing. We're just having that thought again and again. So pattern interrupt. We want to interrupt that emotional spiral that we're going down and interrupt it with like, okay, I have something constructive I can do with this. I can revise this in my head. And instead of lamenting about it, beating myself up, I can sit here in this picnic time chair and I can run it through again how I would have done it, or how I wish I would have done it, or how I would do it the next time. Okay, so we get to control that narrative, which is amazing. And out of that, when we sit down and revise it, we're visualizing, we're putting a new memory in our brains, we are propping up our confidence instead of tearing it down, and we're building those new neural pathways. Because now what we're doing is you're rehearsing the thing you would have done instead. You're not rehearsing the mistake, right? You're rehearsing the positive thing, not rehearsing the negative thing. Okay, so when it comes to that, the good news is we have a lot of control basically on how that event is stored in your brain. So we store, however you want to think about it, all those things are stored in our brain in a very certain spot in our brain, see anatomy. But we get to decide now how we want that memory stored. And I think that is really powerful. It is super impactful on our performance. And obviously the next time we walk into the ring, that's what we're carrying with us. And it's not easy, okay? Because your brain will fight you with that's not what happened. That's not really happened. You screwed up. You'll be all mean to yourself, right? Mean girl will show up at the table to say her piece, and you're just going to need to work through that. And just keep saying, yeah, but if I were to do it again, this is what I would do. Yeah, but if I were to do it next time, this is what I'll do. And that's how you get through that. And that's how you kind of silence that mean girl in your head and tell her to sit down. I'm working on something else. This is not your turn. Okay. All right. So I want you to practice that. And the beauty of practicing this is you can practice it in your life. Okay. Practice it when you don't get the parking spot you want at the grocery store, right? Practice it when someone is rude to you at the bank, again, making things up. But so revise it. Be like, oh my God, that was the nicest person at the bank. She was so helpful. I love going into that bank. Or I got the parking spot I always want, I always get. That's what I'm going to remember about this, right? You're not fooling yourself, but you are choosing to remember that in a much better light. So practice it in your life so that when you need it in your dog life, you have it, that it's a tool that you're getting good at. Because if the first time you tried is when you had a big kerfuffle in the ring, and they're going to be like, this doesn't work. Well, no, it's not going to work well the first time, but no tool, no handling skill that you have works perfectly the first time. Okay. So that is your homework, to practice this and practice it with your students if you're teaching this week. But just really get in the habit of I'm not done processing that run. I'm not done until I have revised it the way I want, and then I can let it go and file it away, right? Let that be your new habit. And I promise you, it's going to change your outlook on it. It's going to change your attitude about it. It's going to help you let go and move forward faster. And you're going to diffuse your emotion, and you are much less likely to carry that in your baggage when you go to the start line the next time. Okay? So that is your homework. I'm very serious about it. I'm shaking my finger at you if you can't see me. Okay? All right. That is all for this week. And no matter what you're up to with your dogs, I hope you have a fantastic time. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner workbook and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.